Welcome everyone to another Trik Trak arcade game video. In this series I'm attempting to document everything about this rather rare arcade game that uses Playmobil trains as its main focus. I've already done videos on gameplay and how the game works. In this video I'm going to focus on the electronics, what's actually making this game work and how crude the wiring actually is underneath this. So if you want to see some gameplay videos or see how the rules work for this game, you can see my other videos on my channel. I'm going to go over the rules rather quickly here if you haven't seen my videos yet so far. Basically how this game works is you have this train track. And on the back panel there are flashing lights. When you drop your quarter in, the sequence will stop on the signals. You have to take the little locomotive and rearrange the three colored train cars to match the three colored signals on the back panel. By doing that, you win tickets, or you can win a single ticket that's good for a prize. It depends how the operator or the location had the game set up. So, let's go down underneath here and start. I'll show you the insides of this. Basically, there is no on-off switch. The power just comes through the back wall. And you can see this orange cord goes up to the light that lights up the playfield where the train tracks are. From there, the power also goes through a fuse into a transformer. And from there, it goes through a couple regulators, capacitors, splits the voltage up into 10 volts, 12 volts. There's a 5-volt rail for the board. It goes through these fuses that you can see here. And then the power goes into this board here, which is the main CPU. Now this is a single-sided board, and it has a lot of surface-mounted chips, diodes, capacitors. It's a single-sided board, like I said, and on the back side, there's been a lot of traces cut, a lot of extra holes drilled, so I'm not entirely sure that this is a production board. I'm thinking this was something they had modified to make it work for this game. So from there, we go right to here, which is the sound board. And you can hear the sound playing right now. It does an attract mode about every 5 minutes or so. Try to get your attention. The two pots are adjustable for the sound. This right side over here goes to this speaker, which is the one that plays the background noise, and this other pink wire goes to the other side. That's responsible for the chuff-chuff noise that the train locomotive makes. Moving along here, this board is the input from the coin door. There's a little switch on here. You can select whether you want 1 coin or 2 coins. It's pretty much the pricing. Then this little board here is the ticket redemption board. The colored dip switches you can see is where you set the number of tickets that you want the game to award. Now this board is disconnected right now. The wires are cut because the arcade that I bought this off of was using it just as a game for fun. They weren't awarding tickets. So then this big harness of wires you see down along the bottom, they go up to the control panel, the other speaker, and the coin door. So let's take a look up underneath and see what's going on up under the tracks here. Back in this corner here where you see the white X's made of wires, those are the reed switches that detect the train cars. So once you arrange the cars in the proper orientation, the circuit is completed and sends the signal back down to the CPU, and it knows that you've won the game. Looking further back here, you see these little fishing lines. These are the uncouplers. There are 5 uncouplers in the game for uncoupling the cars, and they all come back to a solenoid here mounted on the bottom of the playboard. So what happens is when you start the game, this energizes and it pulls all these strings back so that the couplers are down so the cars stay latched. When you hit a button on the playfield, or the control panel up here, it actually releases the solenoid in the rest position, and they pop up, and that allows the cars to uncouple when you hit the button. Circuitry holds it for about 3 seconds, and then the couplers drop. So we go back the other way. You see the power going to the tracks, goes up through right here. If you follow it back, that's the reed switch for the locomotive. You can only switch tracks when the locomotive is in the tunnel. That's the position back there. And that's so it knows, the game knows when the locomotive is back in the tunnel. So we go back here, there's the coin door and the coin box. Inside the box is where I store all my extra pieces. Keep extra couplers, traction tires for the locomotive, handrails for the cars, anything I think I might need if it would break in the game, because Playmobil stuff is becoming harder and harder to find. It's becoming more and more expensive. So anything I can find at a good price on eBay, I grab. Laying here, I do have the instruction manual. Let's go ahead and pull this out and take a look at this. The game was made by Future Leisure back in 1986. This just goes over the game, the theory of operation, how to operate the dip switches and settings. And then we go into pages and pages of hand-drawn schematics. The joystick control, the rail car unhook circuit, the game start circuit. The schematics are very good as far as labeling the parts, but it doesn't actually give you a location as to where the parts are on the CPU board. You have to do a little hunting yourself to find everything. Here's the general layout of the inside of the cabinet that I went over already. See the transformer board, power regulators. Here it's showing the voltage to the track, and that's actually mounted under the tracks under the playboard, not down in the cabinet. And we have the CPU board, sound board, what they call the coin unit board, and then the ticket board. Here's the schematics of how the lights are wired on the back box. And we have another page of more circuitry. It's like a copy. There's the game start circuit. Diagram how the reed switches are wired under the tracks. This is the points control circuit, basically how the switch tracks work. They're using LGB switches with electronic snap motors, where they're wired into push buttons. And the circuitry has to figure out, depending on which button you press to select your track, does it have to throw one switch, or does that throw both switches? And it's making noise again. This is the sound circuit. It's kind of ironic, every time I get something that deals with the soundboard or sound circuit, it decides to play. There's the track stop diodes. It's kind of neat what it does. It has a track diode wired in, so if a track is empty and somebody tries to slam the locomotive into the wall, it won't let you. It actually will kill the power in one direction because the tracks are in DC. But it still allows you to back up the opposite direction. This prevents someone from trying to wreck the game. There's the point control reed switches, showing how they work. So if anyone's trying to repair one of these, it doesn't have the instructions or they don't have the schematics, let me know. I'll gladly get you a copy if you need them. So let's talk about some of the upgrades I've done to this game. First of all, what I did down here, if you look at these fuses back here, they were initially a 20mm fuse, which is a very short fuse. They're hard to find. So I switched them over to the more standard 30mm fuse that you can get at any auto parts store, any arcade game supplier. Some modifications I did to the CPU board. See this connector right here? That's the main power coming in. I put it onto a Molex connector. Originally, it was 4 screw terminals. And if I wanted to remove this board to service it or to troubleshoot it, you had to unscrew all 4 terminals, slide the wires out. It was just a pain. So I converted it over to the Molex connector. Also, you'll see this little box here. This is the alarm unit for when you win. It was hardwired to the board. So again, if I wanted to take the board out for service, I would have to unscrew this. So what I did was just add a little micro connector there so I can easily disconnect this, slide that out, and then disconnect every other connection on the board, and it pops right out easily now for service. Also, I replaced every capacitor on the CPU board. I've been repairing pinball machines for over 10 years, and I know capacitors are a big issue on power supplies. They can cause the game to do really strange things or not start at all. So I replaced every capacitor on that board just to be safe. I also replaced a couple transistors in the back there that didn't quite look right. They had cracked housing, so I replaced those. I haven't done anything to the soundboard. It's working right now. I don't feel the need to change any of those capacitors. The sound doesn't seem scratchy or anything. I also, let's go back to the MPU here. There's the sound again. I also replaced a lot of these IC chips. I really wasn't sure if the game was working 100% or not, because sometimes whenever you would finish the sequence and win, it's supposed to reset to a new sequence. Sometimes it wasn't doing that. And I figured I may have had a chip going bad. Tracing the schematics out, I put new ones in there just to be sure. And after I did that, the game actually started functioning the correct way. It's resetting the new sequence every time now. So I may have had a bad chip. It was just, for the price, put all new in there, and we're good to go. Backing out here, look at the actual cabinet. It had some black T-molding on it, so I put this nice yellow on just for make it a little brighter, a little more attractive. The light you see back here illuminating the tracks used to be a fluorescent tube. I switched that out with a low-powered LED strip. Less energy, just as much light, and I don't get that buzz from the LED tube. I also added some cacti and little plants, and these are Playmobil, keeping with the theme of the trains. They fit right in really well because the backdrop is kind of a little western town. I also took the locomotive apart, lubed and greased the wheels and the gears, so it's running top notch. And every now and then take a little Scotch-Brite to the track just to keep it polished up so you don't lose connection. So that's just a quick tour of the Trik Trak arcade game. Again, if you want to see more videos of the gameplay and an explanation of how the rules work, see the videos that I posted on my channel. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.